To this point in the trial, we have not yet seen it actually meaning anything in terms of deterioration of the strength of his candidacy. He's still beating Joe Biden almost everywhere.
Well, certainly in 5 of the 6 swing states that matter, he is leading. And that lead has stayed pretty consistent over time, except for Biden doing a little bit better after the State of the Union. He's generally been ahead in these states. That said, a lot of this seems to be based on discontent with the economy and some groups that tend to trend toward Democrats but have perhaps been disproportionately impacted by the economic challenges and consequently aren't yet enthused. So this is a group where Biden can potentially make up some space with, and in fact, in the Senate polling, the Democrats are leading in those
that's
states.
what I want to ask you about, because you're seeing, in many cases, the Senate staying Democratic. If this poll were to reflect the election, if it were to be held today, this may well be a democratically controlled Congress and a Republican White House. Ticket splitters jump off the page here, Mike Dorning. 10% of Trump voters back the Democratic Senate candidate. 5% of Biden supporters back the Republican. What do you do with that if you're the Biden campaign?
Well, you look down into the crosstabs and you see that those people who are those Trump voters who are backing Democratic candidates tend to be young people and members of minority groups like Hispanics and African Americans who are not as supportive as Biden as they have in the past been of either Biden personally in the last election or Democrats generally. So you can really see that this is a disenchantment with the status quo. If there's one thing that Trump does represent, it's change, and that's what he's a disruptor. That's his character that he gets across, and people want change there, but they tend to still support Democrats for Senate because those groups have traditionally been more aligned with Democratic policy priorities.
Well, Mike, speaking of Donald Trump and change, our own polling here at Bloomberg has suggested in the past that things do change for swing state voters if he is convicted of a crime. So if the testimony we heard from Michael Cohen today makes the case for the prosecution, ultimately if he's found guilty, of course, we're not quite there yet, it actually could make a tangible difference.
For sure, it could make a tangible difference, and it could particularly make a tangible difference with a lot of suburban, moderate, Republican-leaning people who don't tend to like to elect convicted felons to run the country. And some of this testimony that's been in the trial, while it might seem to have an impact in our everyday television coverage, it would have a bigger impact if it was reinforced with a guilty verdict. Now, this particular trial, it may not involve the kind of stakes as some of the other trials would. This is about hush money for a porn star, ultimately, notwithstanding the electoral law violations. And that's maybe not as big of a challenge to Trump's character and persona as some of the election cases.
The analysis from Nate Cohn in the New York Times is brutal if you're Joe Biden, reminding us that this is essentially an unchanged poll since the last one in November, the last series here. Since then, the stock market has gained 25%. The criminal trial of Donald Trump has begun. And the Biden campaign has unleashed tens of millions of dollars in advertising. For a little perspective on the numbers that we're discussing here, Bloomberg's Mike Dorning, we thank you for the time and the perspective today, Mike. Earlier today, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen spoke with Bloomberg TV about competitiveness issues between the U.S. and China. Here she is.
President Biden believes that anything we do should be targeted to our concerns and not broad-based. And hopefully we will not see a significant Chinese response, but that's always a possibility.
For more now on the economic issues between the U.S. and China, as we anticipate news on tariffs as early as tomorrow, we're joined at the table, I should say, by Bloomberg's Saleha Mohsin. Saleha, it's great to see you back with us on Balance of Power. A fourfold increase in EV tariffs. China-made EVs is what we've been reporting. This announcement could come as soon as tomorrow, as I just mentioned. Is this campaign quickly turning into a contest of economic populism?
It absolutely is. It's been one for a while since Biden became president. His very first State of the Union speech, which was technically a joint session speech, a lot of the words that we heard from him, Buy America, things like friendshoring, which he's adopted shortly after that, these are all populist messages, and now we're seeing that reinforced. It took him some time. We've been waiting for a tariff announcement for 2 years now, maybe longer. But what's interesting is that, yes, there's going to be possibly a quadrupling of tariffs on electric vehicles, solar cells, batteries coming from China. But it's largely seen as a symbolic move because China does not rely on the U.S. for these materials.
Yeah, the existing tariffs already have kind of blocked them out of this market in large part. So that point is well taken. It also is a very difficult line for this administration to walk because on the one hand, you want to be hawkish on China. It's very popular. On the other, this could run counter to things like your climate agenda, considering it's green technologies we're talking about. It could potentially lead to increased inflation if you don't calibrate the tariff levels correctly. And all of those costs that importers are paying are just passed right on to the consumer. It's very difficult.
It's almost politics versus policy. You'll get a lot of rhetorical points and politics points for having gone tough on China and use this moment. If Biden can use this moment to send his deputies, his cabinet members to fan out and, Janet Yellen coming out and speaking to Bloomberg on Bloomberg TV to talk about these issues to gain some points there. But in terms of policy, it could damage other parts. Just like you're saying, climate is one key one. Inflation, that is a hotly watched number.
Obviously trying to make up ground on the economy, and he certainly is on his policy in Israel. As we bring you to the war in Gaza, now Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned about the path that Israel is on in a conversation Sunday. Here's what he said.
Israel's on the trajectory potentially to inherit an insurgency with many armed Hamas left, or if it leaves, a vacuum filled by chaos, filled by anarchy, and probably refilled by Hamas. We've been talking to them about a much better way of getting an enduring result, enduring security, both in Gaza itself and much more broadly in the region.
Saleha, we just spent time talking about this new Siena poll that does not bring great news for Joe Biden on any front. Does anything short of a ceasefire in this case help him?
I think it's going to need to be more than that because a lot of the protesters and voters, specifically in Michigan, a very key state for both candidates, they want to see more than just rushing to a ceasefire. And that rush is not going to happen, right? It's going to be a slow walk. At the same time, just like we heard from Blinken, there is a shift. He is talking about wanting to see credible movement from Israel on a post-war plan. So I think it's the devil's in the details, as it is with everything. It's not going to be just a ceasefire.